The Big East got only 3 bids to the big dance, but all 3 teams advanced to the Sweet 16. Creighton, Marquette, and title favorite UConn will all play in the second weekend. Obviously, no Seton Hall, no St. John's, no Providence in the tournament. You heard Dan Hurley. Is the current NCAA model flawed, Jay?
Yeah, it is. And you know what? We got into this before. Let's just expand the tournament. Let's just expand it. So let's just do 112 teams. The top 16 teams get a bye in the first round. Listen to me, Unc. The top 16 teams get a bye in the first round. The first round, you have 96 teams. 24 games played on Tuesday. 24 games played on Wednesday. Then you have the round of 64. Thursday, 16 games. Friday, 16 games. Then you get to the round of 32. 8 games on Saturday, 8 games on Sunday. There you go, 96 games in 6 days. This way, let everybody get in. Unc, you're not paying attention to the first 30 games of the thing anyway. So we really get in. You are, Seth, because you do it for a living.
People are, because people gamble on it because of that thing right here, the bracket. People are paying attention. They're watching it. It's like a racetrack. Why do people go to the racetrack? They're looking for a crash. Why do people watch the opening round of the NCAA tournament? Because they're looking for someone to crash and burn. That's just the way the world lives. I mean,
yes, it is.
I do agree with you.
What attracts attention, Seth? What attracts attention? When you have a crash and burn, when you're rubbernecking on the highway, everybody wants to stand there and look at it. What is this about? This is about generating revenue. What also is it about? Give players rev share. So, yeah, increase the tournament. Just give me some money on the back end. If I'm one of these teams participating, the further we go,
you're
give some money on the back end.
Totally different conversation. I mean, you're talking about paying the players back end, partnerships. That's a totally different situation.
It's all one conversation, baby.
Are we talking about? Well, expanding the NCAA is real easy. You just have 4 regions, play-ins, and they stay in those regions. Those teams win, they go in. It's the bottom 16 won big leagues. That's an easy way to expand the tournament. But in terms of the selection process, I think there's a couple things that have to happen. It's real simple. Look, Mountain West got 6 teams in. If you look at the Mountain West and their non-conference strength, and I know they have a hard time scheduling, they can schedule some Pac-12 teams, all right? They beat absolutely no one in terms of the totality of them. For them to get 6 teams in. And then the Big East. I believe the Big East should have gotten more teams in. No doubt about it, except that when you look at it, Kadire Richmond's suspension cost Seton Hall a bid. Plain and simple. They should have taken that into consideration. If Richmond didn't play, they weren't going to be as good, but he played at the end of the season. You look at this Pitt team, how they were playing at the end of the season. So I think the committee's got to look at the totality of someone's resume, but they've also got to look at this. And they also got to look at the teams that have manipulated the net so that every single game on their conference schedule becomes a quad 1 opportunity. The Big 12 manipulated the net. Plain and simple, end of conversation, not even a debate. If you look at the non-conference strength of schedules in the Big 12, all right, you look at teams in 250, 300, 310, 315, 225. That's a joke. The only 2 teams that played a competitive schedule in the Big 12 was Kansas and Baylor. Everyone else, their schedule was a joke. Absolute joke. And then you look at the ACC that was disrespected. The ACC, if you think about it, they got their 5 teams in, and NC State obviously represented them well. But you know what? The 9th place team in the ACC beat the Big 12 champion. Oregon, the Pac-12 championship, got beat by Syracuse. Wake Forest beat Florida. So, I mean, I think that the ACC was disrespected because of the strength of their schedule, number one, in their non-conference. And they had things that went against them. They had teams that were beat up. They had teams that were hurt. You look at Wake Forest, they played without Efton Reed.
Yep.
It's a hard deal to select the tournament. But you've also got to say, you know, you got to beat someone besides just teams, win and lose against teams in your tournament.
Like in football, you're like, okay, strength of your opponent's schedule, strength of your schedule, so forth and so on. Do they factor that in when they're selecting these teams, the 68 teams at large now? You have 64-team field once they whittle it down. So do they factor that into the selection process?
Yeah, they factor non-conference. Go ahead, Jake.
No, yes, it's a variety of factors, but yes, Hunk, they do.
Well, here's the thing. Now, I get what Dan Hurley is saying is like, look, we should have more teams, and I understand he's the big dog, he's the king on top of the mountain, so he wants to politic for his conference, saying, look, we should get more teams in, so that's more revenue for our conference, because the more teams we get in, the more revenue we're going to generate for the conference, and then that players would want to come for our conference because we have some of this NIL money. But, Jay, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. We can't have you're supposed to play your way in, not just have like, okay, we're going to take 120 teams. You guys going to play. I thought it was like student athletes, so we just go disregard that now. So we've completely gone. Dr. Greenberg, we've completely gone away from the student athletes, because if you get 120 teams and Jay said we're going to play this many games on Tuesday, we're going to flip it right back around and play another game on Thursday and another game on Friday, another game Saturday, Sunday. Man, we've gone to hell in a handbasket with this. I can't agree with that.
I'm going to let Jay Will go, and then I'll comment to him.
Hold on,
Right, Jay Will.
We've been done with student athletes, man. That's
I've been
done. We've been
it's never been
students.
that.
Exactly. We've been athlete students from the beginning of this whole thing. Hey, I got an analogy for you, because I know your Lakers squad. I know we're talking about potential play-in game. Then we'll see how things go between them and Golden State, the 9-10 seed, where that is. Now, I need you to keep it a buck with me, Unc, on this one, okay? So, throughout the college basketball regular season, when I talk to fans of basketball, it's hard for them to tell me who plays for all these teams with the transfer portal, with conference realignment, right? So the reason why I said expand the tournament, almost in a way like the play-in game. Like the play-in game makes you pay attention to the regular season even more. Because you're like, hold on, man. Like, what is it going to be? Like, are we talking about Phoenix? Could Phoenix drop to the play-in game? Do we want Phoenix to be in the play-in game? It creates extra attention. So I want to create extra attention throughout the course of the regular season for some of these teams that most people don't pay attention to until we get to the tournament. So if you're a top 16 seed and you get a bye, all of a sudden it gives you something to play for. It gives people something to pay attention to. I'm trying to find different ways to hook the fan base to pay attention to our sport. I know we do, but the everyday fan, all of a sudden when these brackets come out, they're like, tell me who's Dalton Connect. I'm like, you want me now to tell you who Dalton Connect is? He's been destroying people throughout the course of the regular season. So I'm trying to make our sport even more relevant during periods of time where it loses to football and the NBA. I know they'll never compete, but I'm trying to give extra edge to it. Makes sense a little bit?
Jay, well, you're kind of contradicting yourself, and I love you like a brother. But
Why?
you're kind of contradicting yourself, because one second you're saying no, people don't care about the first four, which is basically the first round.
The play-in.
The play-in. The next second you're saying, but the play-in, people can get a chance to play-in. People are going to see these teams. They're going to have ownership. They're going to be excited about it.
No, I'm talking about the top 16.
You confused me, Jay. Well,
I'm talking about the top 16
seeds.
seeds. I'm talking about the top 16 seeds that will play for a bye. It makes you pay attention to them. It does, Seth. Like, I mean, by the way, what's with their model now? So we've been doing the same model for over 75 years. It's been the same thing. We get to March, everyone's like, tell me who are the team. Tell me who these star players are. Seth, we've been talking about them all year long.
Jay, well, the solution is really simple. First of all, you look at like teams that didn't get in. The ACC got hurt because the last two teams in their conference, trying to answer the question, the last two teams in their conference were absolutely horrific. The last three teams in their conference were horrific. So those were 6 games potentially against nobodies. And then they just didn't win enough games in non-conference rather than taking about where a team was playing or how a team was playing at the end of the season. In terms of the first 4, I agree with you. I think we can expand it. We can expand it. The bottom 16 conferences, 4 in each region. They go to their region that they're going to stay in. They play basically a first 4 game. If they win, they're in the bigger bracket. They're in the NCAA tournament, they're in the bigger bracket. It takes 1 day. You play them all the same day, but in 4 different regions. And then you move on with the tournament. You add teams. You give more opportunities for other teams to get in the tournament. In the end, when it gets to the Sweet 16, it's usually pretty chalky. In the end, it's usually the bigger names. That's the way it is. Obviously last year was an outlier. Why was that last year an outlier? Because of the COVID year, because of the transfer portal, because we have 23, 24, 25, the teams that are winning. If you look at the makeups of the teams that are in the NCAA tournament, they are old. They're 5th and 6th year. They're impacted by the transfer portal. That's what it is. So, look, I think the NCAA tournament made some mistake. It's a hard deal to do, but we can expand it in a way to be more inclusive and still get the best teams in.
All I'm going to say is these teams are older because we have NIL and we have the transfer portal.
Okay.
And what's happening, these mid-major
Yep.
teams, all these bigger schools at the bottom of their conferences are saying, hey, top player for Yale, come on my squad.
Yeah.
Hey, top player for a small school, come on my squad.
Yeah.
That's why conference tournament expanding, it's inevitable. People may not like it. You may say they shouldn't do it, but this is about money at the end of the day for these conferences and these schools. It's going to happen.
All right, I need you to focus.
I know,
I
I'm
know
locked
you're
in.
feeling good.
I'm locked in.
Chest puffed out, the big 40-point win over James Madison.
I
But you
feel
know
good
what's
today.
coming up on Friday.
That buzz saw.
Houston, the 1 seed. How are you feeling about Duke?
I think Duke's chances are good. I think it's about 50-50 right now. I'll tell you why. I think Houston is the best offensive rebounding team. They're probably the toughest team in the country. But one of the things I like about them, Shannon and Seth, is that Duke, when they got punched in the mouth before, they never really punched back. You know, sometimes, like you see these kids, like when they go to school, they have to face against the bully, and you know that the kid is tough, but the bully punks them. It's the first time I've seen Duke stand up and punch somebody first. Watching them play with their guards at that level, if they could play at that level that they played against JMU, that's a team that I think could beat Houston. But if they're the team that got punched in the mouth by North Carolina or by NC State and they come out timid, they're not going to have a chance.
Look, Jay, well, I agree with you. Look, we all know if you want to play against Houston, you got to match their physicality and their toughness. They're the toughest team in college basketball. 2 things you got to do. You got to rebound the basketball, and you got to compete offensively.
Jay Will, you said something I thought I'd never hear from anybody say in the country, and let alone a Duke alum, that Duke has a 50-50 chance of winning a ball game. Wow. Is this where we really are, Jay, right now? Your Blue Devils only have a 50% chance of winning against Houston?
Yes. Yeah. Houston's the real deal, man.
Yeah.
Houston's the real. They got. One of the things I've always appreciated about you were a dog. These are. We were talking about this in college basketball. There's some teams in college basketball that are the same age as Oklahoma City. You got 24, 25-year-olds.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
Playing in our sport.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Just ask
Houston
Coach
is
Cal.
grown men. Duke has a lot of talented young players. I'm just questioning whether they have grown up in a short period of time to compete at that level they need to win against this grown men of Houston.
Jay Will was a dog, though. When he played back in the day, he was a dog.
Right.